When I was 11 years old, I moved in with my aunt after my mother was sent to prison. That was 2004, which was incidentally the same year the pictures of Abu Ghraib were published. The same year we reached the conclusion there were no weapons of mass destruction after all. What a whoopsie. Mistakes were made, clearly. But the blame for these mistakes was impossible to allocate, as no one person could be deemed responsible. What was responsibility, even? Guilt was a transcendental riddle that baffled our sweet, Pollyanna-ish president. How had it happened? Certainly he had not wanted it to happen. In a way, President Bush was a victim in all this, too. Perplexingly, the jury had no difficulty in assigning guilt to my own mother, as she sat silently, looking down, tears running and running down her face at what seemed to me at the time an impossible rate. Slow down, Mom. You'll get dehydrated. If you have never been in a criminal courtroom, it is disgusting. You have seen them so often on TV that seeing an actual one is grotesque. The real live lawyers, all sweaty, their dark mouths venting coffee breath directly into your face, the judge who has a cold and keeps blowing his nose, the defendants who are crying or visibly shaking, whose moms are watching or whose kids are trying to sit still in the back. It's a lot to take in when you're 11, and even just a few months prior you were making an argument that not receiving a particular video game for your birthday would be unfair. The town to which my little sister and I were relocated after a brief stint in foster care was a suburban utopia a la Norman Rockwell, updated with a fancy coffee shop and yoga studio. We moved in just before the 4th of July, and I remember being shooed into a town fair where there were bounce houses and hot dogs being sold to benefit the Kiwanis Club. What the fuck was the Kiwanis Club? I was given a wristband and $10 and told to go play. A woman painted a soccer ball on my face. All the boys got soccer balls, and all the girls got butterflies. Those were the options. Bordered on the west by the sea, on the north by a massive airport, on the east by a freeway, and on the south by a sprawling, smoke-belching oil refinery, North Shore was a tiny rectangle. Originally built as a factory town for the oil refinery, it was a perfect simulacrum of a small town anywhere in America, with a main street and cute post office, a stately brick high school, a police department with predictably brutalist architecture. But instead of fading into rural sprawl at its edges, this fairy tale town was wedged inside the greater body of Los Angeles. My aunt's place was one of those small stucco houses that look immediately like a face, the door forming a kind of nose, and the windows on either side two dark, square eyes. She had a cypress bush in the front that had turned yellow on one side, and many pinwheels planted on the border of her lawn. The bright-colored plastic sun-bleached to a ghostly white as they spun in the wind. North Shore was a windy place with many hills, and I was shocked that people could live in such a wonderful climate without smiling all the time. The air pollution from the airport and oil refinery were pushed inland by the sea breezes. Even our trash cans did not smell. So clean was the air there. Sometimes I would stick my head into them and breathe deeply, just to reassure myself that trash was still trash. On either side, my aunt's house was flanked by mansions, as was the case on almost every street of the town. Poorhouse, mansion. Poorhouse, mansion made a chessboard pattern along the street. And the longer I came to live there, the more clearly I understood that the chessboard was not native, but invasive, a symptom of massive flux. The poorhouses would, one by one, be mounted by gleaming for sale signs, the realtor's face smiling toothily as the sign swayed in the wind. And then the for sale sign would go away, and the house would be torn down, and a mansion would be built in its place.